G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, I've just published an article and it's titled, "Is Prime Minister Anthony Albanese putting Australian Jews above all other Australians?" Now, that's a type of question that's asked on a regular basis. A certain section of the Australian public getting preferential treatment from the Australian government. And given recent events, recent court cases, I thought it was worth asking. An article was published on Thursday, the 17th of July 2025, and starts off, Australia could end up with more victims of the legal warfare being conducted by supporters of Israel than there are victims of anti-Semitism. And that needs to be looked at and addressed by the federal and state governments. For example, Justice Darryl Rangier will hand down his judgment on Friday, the 18th of July 2025, for the 9 female lawyers from the Lawyers for Israel WhatsApp group and their frivolous and vexatious application for 8 respondents, Lorena Ellick, Sam White, Callum Jaspin, Michael Batchelard, Bevan Shields, Patrick Elliott, The Age and Fairfax Media Publications from 9 Entertainment to be charged with contempt of court. Add the 8 respondents from 9 to journalist Antoinette Lattouf, who was sacked by the ABC because of attacks and lies by the Lawyers for Israel WhatsApp group, and journalist Mary Kostakidis, who was being sued by the Zionist Federation of Australia for shining a light on Israel's genocide and war crimes in Gaza. And that totals 10 media respondents in frivolous lawsuits by supporters of Israel. And there are other Australians who have felt the wrath from supporters of Israel, such as artist Khaled Satsabi and pianist Jason Gillum, but it goes unchecked by politicians. Israel, via their puppets in Australia, is trying to pressure the Australian government to give preferential treatment to Australian Jews. And that was made clear when anti-Semitism envoy Gillian Segal released a plan last week with 49 steps to tackle rising discrimination against Jewish Australians. Segal's report claimed anti-Semitism is ingrained and normalised in academia and cultural spaces, and said young Australians were being raised on a diet of disinformation and misinformation about Jews. To say anti-Semitism is ingrained and normalised in Australia is a lie, and it's a lie to try and justify Gillian Segal's position as anti-Semitism envoy and the propaganda lies she is pushing on behalf of Israel. Gillian Segal's husband, John Roth, was exposed supporting anti-Palestinian group Advance in February 2025 by The Guardian in an article titled "Liberal Party Investment Vehicle Donated $500,000 to Right-Wing Group Advance," which starts off, "A Liberal Party investment group donated $500,000 to the right-wing advocacy group Advance last financial year, fueling speculation from the Greens. The two are teaming up to take out the minor party's influence in the up-and-coming federal election. Advance, which has pledged to expose the Greens as Australia's biggest threat to freedom, security and prosperity, received more than $15.6 million in 2023-2024 financial year, up from $5.2 million the year before, according to the latest Australian Electoral Commission annual donation disclosure figures. Just $1,914,000, or 5.8% of the donations, sources are known, with the remaining $14.8 million not publicly declared, sometimes referred to as the dark money. Advance's largest declared donor was the Cormack Foundation, best known as a multi-million-dollar investment vehicle for the Liberal Party and one of the party's biggest single donors. Henroth Investments Pty Limited also handed over the group $50,000 in 2023 to 2024. One of its directors, John Roth, is also a director of the gelato chain Gelato-issimo, and the husband of the Special Envoy to Combat Anti-Semitism, Gillian Segal. The Guardian reported on the 14th of July 2025, Australia's anti-Semitism envoy, Gillian Segal, says she had no involvement in a major donation from her husband's company to the controversial Conservative campaign group Advance, which has strongly railed against overseas immigration, pro-Palestinian protests and the Labor government. The conversation reported early prominent members and funders of Advance included storage king Sam Kennard, far-right former president of the Australian Jewish Association David Adler, and climate denier Maurice Newman. Advance, which has strong Jewish connections via Gillian Segal's husband John Roth and former president of the Australian Jewish Association David Adler, regularly attacks Palestine in social media posts. Now, it's worth noting Advance's attack on the Greens and Advance's connections to the Jewish community. The Greens are one of the biggest supporters of the Palestinians, so no wonder they're attacking the Greens in such a major way. My article goes on to say, it's not all negative, with many starting to fight back with headlines such as the Israel lobby stands loudly condemned for its silence, and anti-Semitism plan fails on a number of fronts. A contentious definition of hate is just the start. And the Special Envoy's plan is the latest push to weaponise anti-Semitism in Australia as a relentless campaign pays off, which starts off. One must acknowledge the remarkably effective Jewish community organisations in Australia behind the latest anti-Semitism report. Collectively, with their news limited megaphone, they have successfully badgered the government of the day, cowed the ABC, intimidated vice-chancellors, and threatened to defund arts organisations. With the ability to garner prime ministerial dinners, a battalion of lobbyists has gained access to editors. Duchess willingly seduced journalists keen to enjoy junkets and corralled more than 500 captains of industry to subscribe to full-page ads against anti-Semitism and thereby blurring political arguments with prejudice and bias. It is no surprise that the relentless propaganda effort has paid off. The appointment of Gillian Segal to Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, routinely described as an eminent corporate lawyer, does not seem to bring scholarly expertise to the role. With respect, one might argue that Segal's previous position as president of the ECAJ, an unequivocal advocate for Israel as a Jewish homeland, should have disqualified her for the role. Numbers have been cited as evidence of an escalation in anti-Semitic incidents that had apparently occurred after the 7th of October 2023. Of course, nuance and accuracy isn't paramount in this campaign. So, 16 students at Sydney University feeling intimidated by the slogan "From the river to the sea" was reframed as 250 complaints submitted to parliamentary inquiry. A childcare centre that was not in fact a Jewish centre was added to the list of terrifying anti-Semitic attacks. The individuals police believe were hired by criminals seeking a reduction in their prison sentences who allegedly placed combustible material in a caravan became a terrorist plot. Still unidentified, 7 months later, who firebombed the Addis Israel synagogue, brought out a rash of politicians to deplore the incident. While Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the government jump when the likes of Gillian Segal say so, they ignore widespread racism. The Sydney Morning Herald reported, days before the release of the Segal report, Judge Elizabeth Armitage found that the fatal police shooting of Kumajai Walker, an Indigenous man killed by a Northern Territory police officer in 2019, was a case of officer-induced jeopardy by a racist constable with a contempt for accountability. While relentless lobbying by pro-Israel groups has produced a vast amount of media coverage and political activity in recent weeks, the muted reaction to Armitage's findings is jarring. The appointment of Segal as Special Envoy and the subsequent recommendations are infused with the notion that protecting Australian Jews from anti-Semitism is more important than the battle against racism for other minorities. Such an approach fuels anti-Semitism rather than curbs it. The fight against racism never stops and is only effective when impacted communities unite to challenge it. The Albanese government is now confronted with a similar choice to that presented to the ABC. How it responds will have profound implications for the health of democracy and social cohesion in this country. Conclusion. So while Gillian Segal is demanding more rights for Jews in Australia, her husband John Roth is funding attacks by advance on Palestinians on social media, and the government thinks it is okay for Gillian Segal to keep her position as anti-Semitism envoy. And while Gillian Segal, her husband John Roth, and Advance are up to their tricks, various supporters of Israel are abusing the law to silence journalists and anyone else who shines a light on the genocide in Gaza and war crimes committed by the Israeli government. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his government need to think long and hard about their next steps, because the Israeli lobbyists could end up destroying them just like they destroyed the ABC management. Now make sure you visit my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, and read that article. Got a lot of links to further information. And please do your bit and help shine a light on corruption and share this video on social media. And please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified every time I publish a new video. In Kangaroo Court of Australia's independent media, I publish a website and a YouTube channel, and I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself. So please support my Patreon account or PayPal account. You can do one-off donations or monthly donations, whatever suits you. And you can visit my website and click on the donations page for other donation options. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.